You're doing something right now that's killing your value, and you have no idea. A researcher spent months interviewing over 400 prostitutes to discover the exact moment a man loses sexual power in a woman's eyes. What he found wasn't about looks, wasn't about money. It was about something invisible, something you're broadcasting in silence. And here's the disturbing part. Even women who were paid to fake desire couldn't control their body's response to it. Their nervous systems knew, they felt it, and they shut down. Just like every woman you've ever been with. If this already feels too close to home, hit that like button. You're going to need to remember this. Most men think they lose a woman because of one mistake, a bad text, a weird date, something they said. But that's not how it works. Desire doesn't die with noise. It dies in silence, gradual, invisible, until one day she looks at you differently and you can't explain why. And here's what makes it brutal. She can't explain it either. Her body decided before her mind caught up. Because attraction isn't a choice, it's a nervous system response. And your nervous system has been trained since childhood to send the exact signals that kill it. Let me explain how this happens. When you were a kid, maybe 5 or 6 years old, something shifted. You learned that certain parts of you weren't safe to show. Maybe you cried and someone told you to toughen up. Maybe you got excited about something and they looked annoyed. Maybe you asked for attention and got silence instead. Small moments, but your nervous system recorded them like survival data. It learned a rule. Being yourself equals rejection. So you adapted. You started performing, watching faces for approval, changing your energy based on the room, becoming what others needed instead of what you were. And that adaptation, that people-pleasing survival mode, it didn't go away when you grew up. It just became invisible to you. But it's not invisible to her. Psychologists call this anxious attachment. It's when your nervous system learned that love is conditional, that you have to earn it by being good enough, quiet enough, helpful enough. So now, as an adult, you don't even realize you're doing it. You're scanning her face for signs of disapproval, adjusting your words mid-sentence, offering things she didn't ask for. And every time you do that, her limbic system, the part of her brain that controls desire, it registers something. Not a thought, a feeling. And that feeling is this: he needs me to validate him. He's not centered, he's performing. And just like that, attraction starts to fade. Here's where it gets wild. Stay with me. There's a concept in neuroscience called mirror neurons. These are brain cells that fire when you watch someone else experience an emotion. If someone's anxious, your mirror neurons pick it up. You feel their anxiety without them saying a word. And in attraction, this is everything. Because when you're operating from need, from that childhood wound that says you're not enough unless she chooses you, your body language changes, your voice changes, your energy changes, and her mirror neurons feel it. She doesn't think, oh, he's insecure. She just feels uncomfortable, unsettled, like something's off. And desire, which lives in the body, not the mind, it shuts down. Not because you did something wrong, but because your energy is asking her to fix something inside you that you haven't fixed yourself. What I'm about to tell you next will change how you see every relationship you've ever had. That pattern you learned as a kid, that performing for love strategy, it created something psychologists call a relational schema. It's like a blueprint, a template your brain uses to navigate intimacy. And here's the problem. Your schema says, love is earned through effort. If I try hard enough, I'll be chosen. But her schema, especially if she grew up with secure attachment, it says, love is a choice between equals. I'm attracted to someone who already knows their value. So you're playing two completely different games. You're trying to earn what she's only willing to give freely, and the harder you try, the less attractive you become. Because effort, in the realm of desire, reads as desperation. Think about the last time a woman went cold on you. She stopped texting back with the same energy, started saying she was busy, gave you short answers. You probably thought you did something wrong. But here's what really happened. Her body detected the signal, the invisible broadcast that says, "I need you more than you need me." And once that signal is out there, no amount of logic, no amount of kindness, no amount of trying harder will bring desire back. Because you're trying to solve an emotional problem with a behavioral solution. You're trying to convince her mind when the issue is in her nervous system. And nervous systems don't respond to arguments, they respond to energy. Now here's the part that's going to hurt, but you need to hear it. You didn't just lose her, you lost yourself. Because somewhere along the way, you stopped being a man with a center and became a man orbiting her approval. You started measuring your worth by her responses. Good morning text gets a heart emoji, you feel great. She takes 3 hours to reply, you spiral. You gave her the power to determine whether you're valuable. And the moment you did that, you stopped being attractive. Because desire doesn't grow towards someone who's collapsing into you. It grows towards someone who's standing firm in themselves. Jung would call this the shadow. The parts of yourself you rejected because they weren't acceptable. The anger you swallowed. The boundaries you didn't set. The truth you didn't speak because you were afraid she'd leave. And every time you hide those parts, you're not being strategic. You're being dishonest. Not with her, with yourself. And that dishonesty, that performance, it creates a distance. She can feel it, even if she can't name it. She's not connecting with you. She's connecting with the version of you that you think she wants. And deep down, some part of her knows, that's not real. That's not solid. I can't trust that. Nietzsche said, the individual has always had to struggle to keep from being overwhelmed by the tribe. And that's what happened to you. You got overwhelmed. You learned that fitting in mattered more than being whole, that being loved mattered more than being honest. And now you're an adult, walking around with a child's wound, trying to get from women what you never got from the world. Permission to exist as you are. But here's the truth nobody tells you. That permission, it was never theirs to give. It was always yours. And this is where most people get it wrong. They think the answer is boundaries. Just say no more. Stand up for yourself. But boundaries won't work if you don't understand what I'm about to explain. Boundaries aren't walls you build to keep people out. They're lines you draw because you finally know who you are. And most men don't know. They've spent so long performing that if you ask them what they actually want, what they actually feel, what they actually believe, they freeze. Because underneath the performance, there's nothing. Just an emptiness, a question mark, a man waiting to be told what to be. Rilke wrote, "The only journey is the one within." And that journey, that inner work, it's not optional if you want to be desired. Because women don't want a project. They don't want to fix you. They don't want to mother you. They want to feel something when they're near you. Tension, presence. A man who knows where he's going whether she comes along or not. And you can't fake that. You can't perform your way into it. You either have a center or you don't. And if you don't, every relationship you enter will expose it. The twist? Most people never heal from this. They just repeat it. Different woman, same pattern. They give everything. She pulls away. They try harder. She loses respect. They become resentful. She becomes cold. And it ends the same way every time. Because the problem was never her. It was the part of you that learned love is something you earn instead of something you are. But you're not most people. Here's why. You're still watching. You didn't click away when it got uncomfortable. You didn't defend yourself when I called out the pattern. That means some part of you is ready. Ready to stop performing. Ready to stop collapsing. Ready to face the thing you've been avoiding your entire life. Yourself. Not the version you show people. The real one. The one with needs and edges and shadows. The one you've been hiding because you thought it wasn't enough. Let me show you what this looks like in real life. Maybe you're in a relationship and you notice you can't relax. You're always monitoring her mood, reading her tone, trying to predict what she needs before she asks. That's not love. That's hypervigilance. It's a trauma response. Your nervous system learned that if you don't stay 2 steps ahead of rejection, it'll destroy you. So you became a mind reader, an emotional caretaker. The guy who does everything right but somehow still feels like he's failing. And she feels it too. She feels the weight of being responsible for your emotional stability, and it exhausts her. Or maybe you're at work and you can't say no. You take on extra projects, stay late, volunteer for things you don't want to do. Not because you're ambitious, because you're terrified that if you stop performing, people will see you have no value. That's imposter syndrome.
And it's not about your skills, it's about the belief buried deep that you're only worth what you produce. So you produce and produce and produce until you burn out. And even then you feel guilty for resting, or maybe it shows up with boundaries. Someone asks you for something, you want to say no, but the word gets stuck in your throat. You feel the guilt rising, so you say yes, and then you resent them, not because they asked, but because you didn't have the spine to be honest. And that resentment, it poisons everything, because you can't respect yourself when you're constantly betraying your own needs. And if you don't respect yourself, why would anyone else? Or maybe you notice you don't even know what you want anymore. Someone asks what you feel like eating and you freeze. You say, I don't care, whatever you want. Not because you're easygoing, but because you genuinely don't know. You've spent so long adapting to other people's preferences that your own disappeared. And now you're just a mirror, reflecting back whatever the room needs. And mirrors don't inspire desire, they inspire indifference. Or maybe it's emotional regulation. Someone criticizes you and you shut down. You go silent, numb. You don't get angry, you don't defend yourself, you just vanish inside. Because anger wasn't safe when you were young, so your nervous system learned to freeze instead of fight. And now as an adult, people walk all over you, not because they're cruel, but because you never taught them where the line is, or maybe it's identity. You look in the mirror and you don't recognize yourself. You've become a collection of roles, the good boyfriend, the hard worker, the dependable friend. But underneath all of that, there's a question. Who am I when no one's watching? Who am I when I'm not trying to be loved? And the silence that follows that question is terrifying. Because the answer might be, I don't know, this isn't weakness, this is survival intelligence. Your nervous system learned to do this to keep you safe. When you were 5 and love felt conditional, adapting made sense. It kept you connected, it kept you from being abandoned. But now you're 35. And what kept you safe as a child is killing you as a man, because the same strategy that earned you approval is destroying your ability to be desired. Comment below if this one hit different. I want to know I'm not alone here. And if you think that's deep, wait until you hear what happens when people start unlearning this. Here's the truth about healing. It's not a hack. It's not a technique. It's not something you do for a week and check off a list. It's a complete rewiring of your nervous system. It's learning for the first time in your life that you don't have to earn your existence, that you're allowed to take up space, that your needs matter even when they inconvenience someone else. And that process, it doesn't happen through thinking, it happens through feeling. Let me give you something practical. Inner child reparenting. This is where you go back to that 5-year-old version of yourself, the one who learned love was conditional. And you tell him what no one else did. You're not too much. You're not too little. You're enough exactly as you are. And you don't just say it, you feel it. You let yourself grieve the childhood you didn't get, the unconditional love you deserved but never received. And from that grief, something new emerges, permission, not from her, from you. Then there's nervous system regulation. Your body is stuck in survival mode. It's been running on cortisol and adrenaline for decades, always scanning for threats, always bracing for rejection. So you have to teach it safety through breath. 4 seconds in, hold for 4, 6 seconds out. That signals to your vagus nerve, the part of your nervous system that controls your stress response, that you're safe, that you can relax, that not everything is a threat. And when your nervous system calms, your energy changes. You stop radiating anxiety, you start radiating presence. Then shadow work. This is Jung's concept. The parts of yourself you rejected, they didn't disappear. They went into the shadow. Your anger, your selfishness, your sexuality, your ego, all the things you learned weren't acceptable. And now they're running your life from the darkness, sabotaging relationships, creating patterns you can't explain. So you bring them into the light. You stop pretending you're only good. You admit you're also messy, flawed, human. And that honesty, that integration, it makes you whole. And wholeness is magnetic.
And here's the hardest one. Choosing softness over survival mode. You've been at war your whole life, fighting to be enough, fighting to be chosen, fighting to prove your value. And that fight, it's exhausting. So you put the armor down. You stop performing. You let yourself be seen in your uncertainty, in your fear, in your need. Not because it's strategic, but because it's true. And truth, even when it's uncomfortable, is the only foundation that desire can actually grow on. Carl Jung said, "I am not what happened to me. I am what I choose to become." And that's the shift. You're not doomed to repeat these patterns forever. You're not your childhood. You're not your wounds. You're the man who has the courage to face them, to feel them, to heal them. And on the other side of that healing, there's a version of you that doesn't need to beg for attention, doesn't need to perform for love, doesn't need to collapse into someone else to feel valuable. The goal isn't to be fixed, it's to become whole. To remember that the parts of you that you've been hiding, they were never the problem. The world that couldn't hold them was. And now, you're building a world inside yourself that can. A world where you're allowed to have needs, to set boundaries, to say no, to disappoint people, to be imperfect, to be human. And from that world, you don't attract women who want to fix you. You attract women who want to meet you as equals, as whole people, as two centers choosing each other, instead of two wounds trying to heal through each other. If this resonated, share it with someone who needs to hear it, and subscribe, because we're just getting started. Drop a comment if you've lived this. Let's build something real here. Because the truth is, you're not broken. You never were. You were just taught that you had to be someone else to be loved. And now you're finally learning that the only person you ever needed to be was yourself.